Evan Lovett. We are going to ask him a few questions in regards to his tattoo, what he's doing in the community, and what shop he's working at, and learn some more about him. So, Evan, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Can you tell us where you're currently working, what shop, city, where you typically travel to?
So currently I am working in Philadelphia at the Philadelphia Tattoo Collective, which is a studio I started with a couple friends of mine, and it's grown to house about 10 artists, amazing artists. Everyone has a different style. I'm there most of the time in Philadelphia, which is where I'm from. About 1 week a month or every other month, I'm also in Knoxville, Tennessee at a shop called Born This Way Body Arts. So primarily in the last year or so, I've been bouncing back and forth between those two shops.
Are you still traveling as much as you used to?
Well, I used to live and work in 3 cities simultaneously. So I spent a week in Austin, Texas, a week in Atlanta, Georgia, and a week in Philly, and would switch every week. And then the 4th week of every month, I would do a commission or guest spot. But after about 3 years of doing that, it got pretty exhausting. Also, I found that once I started some other non-tattoo related things in Philadelphia, mostly a nonprofit organization I started, Philly kind of had me growing exponentially and doing more and more things there for my community, so it kind of kept calling me back. I used to feel like every time I was in a place for about a week, I'm missing something somewhere else, and now it feels like every time I leave home, I'm missing something important there. So it's interesting. It's new for me to feel like I have a home base.
I think you're pretty well known for your Sharpie back pieces. You've done a number of back pieces, and you did one here at the convention this week at Tattoo Lou. How did he start, and why did you start him, and what did you learn from doing that from him?
Well, it was a drawing process that I started to help me kind of visualize how I wanted the tattoo to be before I actually tattoo it. So it started off as like consultations with clients for sleeves, not just back pieces, and I would have my idea and I would draw it on just to see how far I can stretch it texture-wise, lighting-wise, depth, to really get like a good idea of how it will look on them. I found that my clients really like the idea of also being able to see what's on them. So the more I did it, the more people wanted me to do it, which wasn't really an intention of mine. So as I kept doing it, it kind of became a thing, and people really started like talking about my process. So I came up with this art show. It was my first solo gallery show called Wiped Away, where I drew on about, over the course of like a few months, I drew on about 15 back pieces, and as soon as I was done, I took a picture and wiped it off. So it took about like 3 or 4 hours to draw on and about 3 minutes to make this appear. And it was really about the process of how I draw, not the finished result. And it was therapeutic in a way, it was frustrating in a way, but it really helped me grow. And I kind of emulated that project after Tibetan sand mandalas, where monks will spend days sometimes creating these beautiful patterns on the ground, and as soon as they realize that they're done, they sweep it up and return the sand to the river. So it was sort of like about just really embracing the process and not the end result. Now, I still do it as consultations for a lot of my tattoos, or I'll draw on my tattoo before I tattoo it. But I think it really helps my clients understand where we're going to go with the design. So, yeah, I still continue to do it.
Since you started doing them, have you had non-tattoo customers kind of approach you for people who don't want tattoos but they want to get tattooed, you know what I mean?
No, but I have had more clients that, regardless of how much work they have, ask me to draw on them as a consultation for a tattoo, and it's allowed them to, someone who wants like a sleeve, but like I just want this piece now, but eventually I want my whole arm. And it was a way for me to be like, alright, well let's just draw the whole arm, because drawing won't take long, it's not permanent, and then we can work on one part and we know where we're going. And by the time I'm done drawing and they can visualize the whole thing, they're like, you know what, let's just do this now. And I'm like, okay. So it was a great way for not just me to visualize the outcome, but also clients to see it. Because a lot of times they come to us and don't really have a clear image of the bigger picture. And regardless if you do the whole big picture all at once, or you work on it in stages, knowing where you're going to go with it really helps kind of dial in the smaller steps. So,
have you had people request tattoos in that Sharpie style since you've started doing them?
I definitely have, but it was something that I tried to hold off doing for I fought it for the longest time. People were like, I love the way it looks, the way you draw it. And I'm like, it's just the way I draw it. And people are like, come on, just like, I want it like to look like that. And I'm like, all right, fine. I gave in and I did it, and it was so much fun. Like, it felt like I was drawing, not tattooing. The order in which that I apply the ink as opposed to applying the markers is different, but like, there was a freedom in it, and people actually kind of wanted to look looser like a drawing and not super crisp like a tattoo, and that was kind of fun too. It was kind of like painting in a way.
Can you talk a little, so you're pretty heavily involved in the Philadelphia community, in the art community outside of tattooing. Can you talk about the charities you're involved in and what you're doing with the city of Philly and what projects you're involved in?
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, well, let's back it up a little bit more. For the years that I've been traveling tattooing, I've also been painting murals, and every time I go to a city, I buy paint. I ask someone if I can paint the wall. I paint it. And once I started staying in Philly more, where Philly has a really, really strong art community and a really good mural community, and I started painting with friends there, and I wanted to do more than just paint a wall for me. So I talked to a few people, and we decided to start a nonprofit organization called VURT, V-U-R-T. And VURT Creative, which stands for Visual Urban Renewal and Transformation. We kind of do fundraising and crowdsourcing money to paint these projects in areas that just look bad. You know, some areas inhabited, some not. But if we can do one positive thing and bring positive attention to something that most people want to overlook, they can't help but see all the other things around it and help want to make a difference. And in a city like Philadelphia, if you want to do something and you do it, people respect it, you know, for not asking, you know. I mean, like, we had to ask sometimes, but really we just wanted to do this thing, make a difference, and we figured out how. And the thing that I think is most interesting about that is it inspired other people to do what they wanted to do. If there's something that needed in their neighborhood or community, and there's no one there helping them, they're like, screw it, we'll do it ourselves. And that's kind of like the whole reason I wanted to start it. It was sort of like this, I don't know, rebellious way to make a difference, and I appreciate it. So in the city of Philadelphia with VURT, I paint very large murals, and I come up with like different series or ideas. One of the series is called the Local Critters series, which involves me painting very, very large murals of animals that live within the city limits that people don't realize or overlook. So it's kind of like a way to take it away from people and focus more towards nature, which is, if you ever see my artwork, kind of my main focus. But the neighborhoods and the people kind of like personify or connect with these animals that have been putting in their neighborhood, and it's kind of become like mini landmarks in all these different neighborhoods, and it's been a fun project. But I've been using the attention, the positive attention that these murals get to shine a light on our other projects and programs. One of them is the Starter Box Initiative, which is a program that I designed where we have these drop boxes in different locations throughout the city for art supplies, and people would come and drop used or new art supplies, and we've been gathering them all, and we want to donate them to public school art teachers that have no budget for art supplies. So some schools in the city don't even have art programs, and some do, but don't have any money to get any supplies. And any artist will tell you, if it didn't start at home, it started at school. And to like think about these diminishing programs where people just don't have access to like crayons even or paper, it's pretty ridiculous. So we have these, most of the teachers kind of pay out of their own pocket, and we're trying to help subsidize what they pay out of their pocket by just giving them supplies. So that's the Starter Box Initiative. Then we have the Starter Brush Initiative, which is actually hosting painting classes in different rec centers around the city for kids that don't have art in schools. It's free to the kids. They show up. It's kind of an instructional paint class, but it just gets them involved, gets them dirty, you know, gets them just involved in the art, and if it's inspiring enough to come back and do it again, we're hoping that it makes the interest in the visual arts grow. And one of the things that we're really excited about is we noticed a lot of parents are like, oh, there's this thing, and they'll drop their kids off, but them engaging in it as well and like sitting down and painting and having fun, it's cool because you can see it on all levels, the inspiration that art has, but it's also having them interact with their kids in a creative way. And I didn't really expect that when we first came up with the program, but it's been really interesting.
Very fascinating. It seems like you're doing a lot for the community and a lot for people in the community to help improve the art scene and help improve the view of the city for people. So there's been a number of tablets have really exploded in the last decade.
Absolutely.
A large number of artists that prepare their tattoos on a tablet in digital form. Do you use one? And if so, how do you use it?
Yeah, I definitely I held off for a bit because I'm such a traditionalist with materials. I really like tactile nature of paper and markers, but it's too efficient to ignore. So yeah, I have a tablet and I use it. I don't draw on it as much because again I like paper, but I really love using it to prepare reference, or after I do a drawing on paper, taking a picture of that and drawing a line work off of it. So it's way too efficient, especially for artists that travel. You know, I don't have to have a whole another bag of materials. It's all right there on my tablet, and like being able to just send it to a printer, it's so useful. But I still love to draw on paper, and I still draw on people. So
do you think young artists should focus more on paper just to get the fundamentals down, or do you think they should be grasping both ends?
Absolutely do both. It's so efficient and it's so useful that you can't deny its benefits, but there's still something to being able to hold something tangible. That's not just a print off, like you made it, and forcing your hand to like, you know, make those moves, especially with drawings for tattoos. You know, you make the drawing and you're teaching your hand these movements, right? Like on the tablet, you can zoom in and you can do things that you can't do on the skin. So there's a benefit to both, and I definitely do both. You know, draw something on the tablet if you really like how it came out, redraw it again. Draw something on paper if you want to clean it up, throw it on the tablet. But it's interesting. It's interesting to see how fast that has grown.
With how fast the tablet world has grown, what do you think that tattooing is going to look like in 10 years with technology? I
don't know. Better, hopefully. I mean, I think the access to information that artists have now as opposed to when a lot of us started, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Instagram didn't exist, and Facebook.
It's there's such a faster reach to all of these styles, and there's more information about how to efficiently do that. When I started, I had to, not to sound like an old guy, but I traveled and I worked with people. I did conventions, I did lots of guest spots, and I learned techniques from everyone, and now it's like cool. So I think there's no excuse to grow as fast as you can and to really, I don't want to say find your niche, but find that groove, that smooth point of your style and your technique. So where's it going to look in a few years? Hopefully phenomenal, but I think the efficiency to get it to look phenomenal will be such a shorter learning curve. So will the work 30 years from now look better or different than it does now? I don't know, maybe, but I think that's more to style as opposed to like technique. I just think learning those techniques will happen more quicker. And there's good and bad things about that, but that's the evolution of anything, so you can't really complain about it.
What can people expect for the rest of 2018? Where are you going? What are you working on? I know you're going to be working pretty heavily on the art community stuff.
Yeah, I had a few solo shows this year, gallery shows, which were pretty exciting. One was a split show between me and Nick Baxter called The Void, which was a series of hyper-realistic and like sharp realism paintings of abandoned spaces. Nick took the outside approach, doing more plein air studies of these paintings, of these places and buildings, and I kind of took more of an intimate interior approach, painting the portrait of inside of abandoned spaces. So that happened, and then this past April 6th, I had a solo show called Idle Hands, which was sort of bringing my mural work back into the gallery. I did a series of portraits 2018, I'm doing a follow-up of Idle Hands where I'll be painting portraits of tattoo artists, a lot of which are here, a lot of friends, and people that I really admire for not just their style, but their work ethic. And I'm really excited to start that project.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to give it too much away now, but it's going to be fun.
So today you're going to be live streaming in a little bit, probably in about a half hour. You're going to be live painting out on the sun deck at Tattoo Snob. What are you going to be painting? And I don't want to give too much away, but we encourage the viewers to tune in. We're going to be live streaming in a little bit and watching Evan live paint.
I'll be giving my gift of graph, which is a painting much like the ones you see behind me, done with spray paint, and we'll be raffling it off and donating the proceeds to a charity of choice. The charity I picked here in St. Louis is Visual Arts Charity, which kind of allows kids to create a space and learn how to make art, but also earn entrepreneurial skills through making art. So it's something that obviously I'm passionate about, and I think it's really interesting. And since we're here in St. Louis at Tattoo Snob, I definitely wanted to donate to a charity that was local. So I'm glad I found that one.
So, last question. If people are interested in getting tattooed by you, what advice do you have to them? How do they get in contact with you?
So, well, there's always Instagram. You can always DM me. The easiest way is to go through my website, which is elovettart.com, and fill out one of the submission forms. My website, being an artist and not just a tattoo artist, my site is broken up into my tattoos, my murals, and my visual arts, and each one of those pages has a contact form. So whatever one you're interested in knowing about, or if you just have any general questions, you can message me through that.
Cool. Well, we appreciate your time today, and we look forward to live streaming with you, and can't thank you enough for sitting down to talk to us.
All right, check in later.
Thank you very much.
No problem.